and welcome. This is day 8. I've got some nice flowers behind me. Can you see today? They were a gift from my lovely coaching crew. So yeah, this is day 8 and today is about stress. But we're going to keep it positive. I'm going to give you some tips and insights that will help you better understand stress, but also help you better manage stress. And not only that, actually harness its positive power. So let's think a little bit about stress to start with and start reframing that. Reframing means thinking differently, basically, taking a different perspective on something, and that will shift your mindset. So something important about stress, and as I've said, in 12 minutes or 10 minutes today actually, you know, I can't go into too much depth around things, but hopefully this provides you with some inspiration really to either join me for more coaching on something like the Mensana program that I run, or just to look for yourself. And you can actually go and read some of my posts and articles I've written on this for free on my website for positive growth. So fear is just an emotion. So stress creates anxiety and fear, and vice versa. So fear and anxiety are causing us to feel stressed, and that feeling is fear, anxiety, worry. Now, I think I've mentioned this before. Basically, once we're in that fear state, we're in the fight, flight, or flee state. So fight, flight, or freeze, sorry. And when we're in that state, our body moves into a state of increased cortisol. That's going to help us basically decide what we're going to do when we feel that sense of danger. So this is a very primitive feeling, and that release of cortisol and energy is supposed to help us run away if we want to from this dangerous situation. The reality is we're not normally running away from a dangerous situation. We might be about to go and do a presentation, or we're facing a challenging situation either at home or at work or out in the world. And of course, the challenges of life can build up as daily stresses for us. I've talked about change and how that can be a big stressor. But this fear is just an emotion, so it's really important to connect in your head with the understanding that fear is an emotion. And as we've looked at over the last 7 days, emotions are a choice, and we can manage them very well by actually changing our mindset around them, changing our thoughts and changing our words. And suddenly what was in front of us can appear and be perceived, and we create a different reality for ourselves. So I love the fact that if you think about fear as well, fear is also a really interesting acronym you can attribute to it, which is false evidence appearing real. So fear, false evidence appearing real. So that's also my tip to you. When you're feeling stressed or anxious or in fear about something, just take a moment to challenge the facts around what you're perceiving to drive that fear or that stress. Ask yourself, what are you assuming right now? You know, what are you projecting forward and assuming that's going to happen? How you're going to feel? And make a choice how you actually want to feel. And recognize that sometimes this feeling, this emotion that you're feeling has been created by you using evidence that isn't real. It's not true. It's something you've created for yourself that's not really very valuable to you. So what else are we going to talk about today? I said in the title we were going to look at how you can harness the positive power of stress. So although I've talked about fear, and that isn't necessarily positive, and if you understand stress and its impact over a long time, it can be very negative. It can have a very, very big negative impact on your health. That can come out in many different ways. But, you know, that's something you can look at or you can read up on my website. But all stress isn't negative. So coming back to what I said earlier about the moment you start to get stressed or go into that fear zone, cortisol is released. And actually, that puts you into a state of alert. Now, it's difficult for me to explain today, but basically, if you think of a graph where you've got basically your performance and productivity on one side and levels of stress across the bottom. So you're actually not very productive. You're pretty much bored when there is absolutely no change or no stress in your life. Because, you know, you could say you're very much in a comfort zone, like you're stuck in Groundhog Day. It becomes boring because there's no challenge in there. So that's actually the complete opposite of huge stress, where, you know, there's overwhelm, there's anxiety, there's so much to do. Your body is in a very negative state because you're completely overwhelmed by the feeling of stress. So there's almost this underwhelmed, boring end of stress, which is not really good for you either. It's a place that you can fall into depression equally as well as when you're super stressed. But in the middle, there's actually this amazing zone. There's this amazing zone where you can be your most motivated, productive self. So if you can learn about stress and understand what your triggers are for stress, what makes you feel stressed, and actually where that tipping point is. So imagine actually stress in this upward zone, away from boredom and lack of challenge, between there and what we might call optimal challenge. Actually, you're at your best. It's actually a positive stress zone called Eustress. Funny spelling, EUSTRESS. So in there's this positive zone, and over these last 7 or 8 days, I've said what I'm going to share with you is going to help you feel more confident, give you greater clarity, but also help you get more motivated. And it's in this zone that you're at your most motivated, you're focused, because actually those lower levels of managed cortisol and stress actually create a focus where your brain is working really well and at an optimal place. And then of course you move into distress or too much stress, where you might start to feel unwell, you might feel very tired. So that's not the zone we want to be in. And I've explained you can start managing how you perceive that zone and your reaction to stress earlier in this conversation. So not all stress is negative, and you can harness this positive power if you begin to understand stress better, reframe it for yourself, because actually thinking about stress as a negative thing on a constant basis is a stressor in itself. It'll make you feel more stressed. So recognizing that you can actually harness some of the positive power of stress has reframed stress for you, and now you're feeling more positive about it and welcoming the good stress into your life and starting to recognize your tipping point into negative stress. So those are some of my top tips. As I said, in fact, what I'll do is, if you're on Facebook, I'll share the link to that article that I've written on this, where you can see that graph, so that brings it to life for you. And I hope that was helpful to recognise how you can reframe stress, but also how it's not all negative. So I'll see you tomorrow for day 9. Thank you.